Have you ever noticed how silence feels heavier after you awaken? Not the ordinary silence between sounds, but that cosmic hush that follows once the noise of illusions dies. It's not peace, it's absence, a space so vast it echoes. You look around, realizing that the conversations that once filled your days now sound hollow, that laughter rings false, that even those you love can no longer meet your gaze in the same dimension. You are not crazy. You are not broken. You have simply crossed the first threshold, the desert between worlds. Every true initiation begins here, in the absence of familiar voices, in the unbearable clarity of seeing through the veil. But here lies the first paradox of Hermetic wisdom. The moment you think you are most alone is the moment you are closest to the source. Because solitude is not exile, it is the language of those who can finally hear the real. The mind resists, the heart mourns, the ego calls it abandonment. But in truth, this silence is the initiation's seal, the proof that the illusions have been stripped away. Only those who endure the silence earn the right to hear the code. There comes a point in every seeker's journey when the world stops recognizing them, when the jokes no longer amuse, when small talk burns like sandpaper, when digital noise feels like poison. This is not depression, it is detoxification. You are shedding a language that no longer fits your vibration. You start to sense the invisible wall between those still dreaming and those who have seen the machinery behind the dream. You reach out, but conversations dissolve. You try to explain, but words break. No one seems to understand the storm inside you, and so you walk, alone, scrolling, searching, waiting for a sign that someone else can see what you see, that someone else has heard the same silent hum at the edge of reality. This is the modern desert, not of sand, but of algorithms, a wasteland of pixels and projections where souls wander, thirsty for connection, yet surrounded by mirages of attention. Every scroll promises belonging, yet delivers dissonance. Every like echoes hollow, because what you crave is not validation, it's resonance. You begin to suspect a terrible truth, that maybe the world was designed to keep you asleep, that maybe this loneliness is not a symptom, but the first sign of sight. Carl Jung called it the night sea journey, the descent into the underworld of one's own consciousness. The Hermetic tradition calls it nigredo, the black phase of the great work, where the old self dissolves before the birth of the new. And though your mind cries for company, your soul whispers, "Do not run from the desert, stay. Something sacred is being written inside you." Because the very code you seek, the Hermetic code, is not found in temples or books, but in this silence that terrifies you. This is where most seekers turn back. They confuse the sacred void with punishment and flee into distraction. They trade revelation for comfort. They choose noise over initiation. The great illusion smiles. It knows that nothing imprisons the modern mind like the fear of being alone. You see, the enemy is not darkness, it is disconnection, the invisible divide between your new perception and the world that refuses to awaken. It whispers, "You don't belong anywhere. You've gone too far. No one will understand you. Return to sleep. It's safer there." This whisper is ancient. It's the voice of the predator of awareness, the archetype that feeds on spiritual exhaustion. It thrives when you doubt your own vision. It weakens when you remember the law, because Hermetic wisdom teaches that separation is an illusion of vibration, that as above, so below, as within, so without. And so, if you feel cut off, it is not because you are truly alone, but because the frequency of your consciousness has changed. What you once resonated with now disintegrates. What you once called home now feels like a foreign land. You are between octaves, the bridge between densities, and every bridge feels lonely before it becomes a path. But this is only the first crack in the illusion. The desert is not your prison. It is your proving ground. Every step here carves the memory of who you really are. And when the silence becomes unbearable, That is when the code begins to whisper back. When the initiate stops running from silence, the silence starts speaking, not in words, in patterns. Suddenly, synchronicities multiply. Clocks mirror numbers. Songs echo thoughts. A sentence overheard in the street completes a question you hadn't dared to ask. You begin to perceive it, the living intelligence weaving through everything. The Hermeticist called it the law of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. It means this: reality is not something that happens to you. It's something that resonates with you. Every emotion, every thought, every act of attention is a tone, and the universe is the great instrument that responds to your frequency. That's the hidden code, the reason some souls find each other in a crowd of billions, and others feel alone even in a crowd. Belonging is not found, it's tuned. It is not a social state, it's a vibrational alignment. You were never abandoned by the world. You simply stopped vibrating at the frequency of sleep. When you awaken, you no longer fit the old architecture of connection, and that feels like loss. But loss is only the shedding of what cannot follow you into higher frequencies. The loneliness that broke you is the space where resonance will find you. There's a legend among initiates. It says that at the moment of true awakening, Hermes himself extends a golden key, invisible, weightless, and yet heavier than destiny. That key is not given by another human being. It is forged by the silence you endured, polished by your tears, and sealed by your choice to stay awake. The key opens a single door: recognition. Recognition of others who carry the same light behind their eyes. Recognition of patterns that repeat like sacred geometry in the fabric of your life. Recognition that what you thought was coincidence is actually communication, because the universe does not speak English or any human tongue. It speaks in symbol. It converses through vibration, rhythm, reflection. Every encounter is a line of code, every emotion, a signal. And here lies the truth that ends the desert. You are never walking alone, only walking blind. Every true initiate has walked this same path, in different centuries, under different names. Hermes, Thoth, Ficino, Jung, all drank from the same spring of silence. The brotherhood of the hidden code is timeless. You are entering a lineage that existed before history and will continue after memory. Feel this. The ache in your chest when you crave connection is the same ache Hermes felt when the gods fell silent. The same ache the alchemists felt when their experiments failed and the night refused to end. That ache is sacred. It is the echo of belonging. It means your soul remembers where it came from. Yet here the path sharpens, because the ego, frightened by the vastness of this new perception, will try to weaponize solitude. It will whisper, "You see, you're special, different, above them. No one can understand you. Why even try?" This is the most refined illusion. Spiritual elitism disguised as awakening. The desert turns into a throne, and the seeker becomes prisoner of his own altitude. But Hermetic law warns us. Polarity governs all. Every revelation carries its shadow, and the shadow of awakening is separation. The moment you think you are superior, you descend again into ignorance, because you have broken correspondence. The true initiate is not the one who escapes humanity, but the one who redeems it from within. To know the code is to see the divine pattern in all, not just in yourself. The code does not isolate, it integrates. It does not create hierarchy, it restores harmony. It does not teach escape, it teaches embodiment. Because belonging, in the Hermetic sense, is not social approval. It is the recognition that every consciousness, awakened or not, is part of the same divine equation. When you understand this, judgment dissolves, comparison dissolves, pride dissolves, and what remains is resonance. Imagine for a moment that the entire universe is a single, infinite crystal. Each soul, a facet, each experience, a reflection of the same light refracted through a different angle. When one facet awakens, it does not become brighter than the rest. It becomes clearer, Its clarity allows the light to pass through more easily, illuminating others. This is what it means to carry the code, not to own secret knowledge, but to become a living transmitter of coherence. The Hermetic Brotherhood is not a group, it's a frequency. It is activated when a certain resonance is reached, when a heart vibrates in harmony with truth rather than fear. You will know you have entered it when coincidences cease to be random, when silence starts answering, and when you meet eyes that don't flinch at your depth. Those who walk the path will recognize you without words, because the code in you will speak directly to the code in them, and that is belonging. But before the initiate can integrate this truth, one final illusion must die, the illusion that belonging means safety. Belonging is not comfort, it is calling. Once you carry the code, you cannot unhear it. The law of correspondence binds you to coherence. Every thought now ripples further. Every act carries weight. To belong to the brotherhood of the hidden code is to live as a conscious frequency, to embody clarity in a world that worships noise. It means you become a mirror, and mirrors are not loved by those who fear their own reflection. This is where the path of the initiate turns from understanding to service, from awakening to action. You are not here to find the others. You are here to become the signal they can find. The same force that kept the code hidden for millennia still moves through our modern world, and it has only changed its disguise. There is an ancient force that moves through every age, changing names but never its purpose. In Egypt, it was called Ammit, the devourer of souls. In Gnostic texts, it became the archon of forgetfulness. Today, it wears a new mask, the algorithm. Its purpose has always been the same: to harvest attention, to scatter consciousness, to keep minds busy enough to forget their divinity. This is the great forgetting. It does not destroy knowledge. It buries it beneath endless stimulation. It does not imprison the body. It sedates the mind with convenience. You no longer need chains to keep humans asleep. You only need constant distraction. The ancient Hermetic texts warned of this in veiled words. When the eyes of man are turned outward, his inner sight becomes blind. And so here we are, a generation that sees everything and understands nothing. A civilization drowning in information yet starving for meaning. The predator does not need to hide. It simply needs you to keep scrolling. Every scroll is a ritual, a small offering of life force to the altar of oblivion. You think you are consuming content, but the content is consuming you. The more you awaken, the more you feel this tension. Your consciousness expands, but the world pulls you back into noise. You try to meditate, and a notification rings. You reach for stillness and an ad whispers your name. You speak of silence and the algorithm amplifies chaos. It's not personal, it's systemic. The architecture of your world was built to keep you fragmented, because a scattered mind cannot remember who it is, and a being that forgets its essence is easily controlled. Hermetic law tells us everything vibrates. So what happens when your attention, the core of your vibration, is hijacked 1,000 times a day? Your field fractures, your frequency weakens, your ability to perceive correspondence, gone. You stop seeing symbols, you stop hearing the code. And that's how the brotherhood of the hidden code is broken, not by persecution but by distraction. The great forgetting doesn't burn libraries anymore, it floods them. But here lies the paradox. The more powerful the illusion, the more potent the initiation hidden within it. The great forgetting is not the enemy, it is the test. It exists to measure your alignment, to refine your will. Because consciousness is not strengthened by comfort, it is tempered by resistance. Every distraction you resist refines the signal. Every silence you choose is a line of code reactivated. The Hermetic initiate does not reject the world. He decodes it. He learns to walk through illusion without becoming it. He sees symbols where others see noise. He hears the law beneath the chaos. He recognizes manipulation as inverted magic, the shadow use of the same principles Hermes taught. Because what are ads if not enchantments? What is propaganda if not inverted mentalism? The very tools of awakening have been reversed, but you can reverse them again. That is the hidden game. That is the real alchemy, to turn distraction into discipline, data into discernment, stimulus into symbol. You will notice this force everywhere once you name it. In your thoughts, when you doubt your own path. In your relationships, when you feel unseen and disconnect in defense. In your silence, when the mind invents noise to avoid itself. This is the predator of awareness whispering, forget. Forget that you are consciousness. Forget that you are the cause, not the effect. Forget that the code lives inside you. And when you believe it, your reality bends accordingly, because reality follows vibration. That's the law. You see, even the predator obeys the Hermetic principles. It cannot violate them. It only manipulates them. That's its limitation and your liberation. Because once you remember the law of correspondence, you can invert the current. When the world feels chaotic, you realign your inner field. When the algorithm demands reaction, you respond with presence. When distraction calls your name, you answer with silence. That is Hermetic warfare, invisible, disciplined, absolute. The initiate's first victory is not seen. It happens when the loop of reactivity breaks. When you catch yourself reaching for distraction, and you don't. When you feel the hunger for noise, and choose stillness instead. That moment, invisible to the world, shifts the fabric of your reality. Because Hermetic law states, as within, so without. The outer field must now reconfigure around your new frequency. That's when the universe begins to whisper again. Symbols return, synchronicities reappear. The code lights up in the ordinary. You reclaim your belonging by remembering the pattern, not by finding new people, but by restoring your coherence. You become immune to the great forgetting, and that immunity is not resistance, it's remembrance. The great forgetting ends not by fighting it, but by remembering that you are the one who wrote the code in the first place. The code was never lost. It was hidden in the only place no one thought to look, your own attention. And when you remember this, the desert starts blooming. After the storm of silence, something changes, not outside, within. It's subtle at first, like a low vibration beneath the chest, a pulse. You begin to sense that life hasn't abandoned you. It's been waiting for you to vibrate differently. The same world now feels alive again, but not because it changed, because you did. Hermetic law calls this rhythm. Every pendulum that swings into darkness must swing back into light. Every descent demands its return. You are not escaping the desert. You are carrying the gold you mined from it. This is how initiates return. Quietly, but altered. They no longer seek meaning. They emanate it. They no longer search for the path. They walk as the path. This rhythm is the code in motion. The principle of rhythm means that life flows, expands, contracts, breathes, and your task is no longer to control it, but to move in harmony with it. When you begin to align with this rhythm, the need for external belonging fades, because resonance, not recognition, becomes your compass. You no longer ask, who will walk with me? You ask, what frequency am I emitting? And those who share it appear. Everything you now experience reflects the pattern of your inner field. Every face you meet becomes a mirror. Every event, a code fragment. That's the deeper meaning of as above, so below. As within, so without. It's not metaphor. It's mechanics. You can test it right now. Observe what triggers you. Observe what draws you. Both are mirrors showing your current frequency. Nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you. Each irritation is a signal. Still energy stuck here. Each resonance is a whisper. Alignment achieved. This is how initiates read the world. Not as chaos, but as correspondence. Every symbol, every coincidence, every obstacle is an invitation to mastery. You no longer live reactively. You live alchemically. When something wounds you, you don't collapse. You transmute. When something attracts you, you don't cling. You study why. You learn to see vibration instead of story. That is what it means to become the operator of reality. And that's when belonging ceases to be emotional. It becomes vibrational. But awareness is heavy. Every vibration you emit now carries consequence. Every word spoken alters the field. Every thought creates correspondence. And so the initiate faces a new challenge: responsibility. There's no returning to ignorance. Once you know the code, you are accountable to it. You cannot act unconsciously anymore, not without feeling the distortion immediately. Some call this spiritual exhaustion, but it's simply refinement. The higher your vibration, the faster the feedback. This is the law of cause and effect moving closer to real time. You think something, and the universe responds instantly. You feel something, and reality rearranges itself around that frequency. For the unprepared, this feels like pressure. For the initiate, it is liberation, because it means the laboratory is open. Your mind has become the furnace. This is when many turn back, longing for the comfort of blindness. But the Hermetic path allows no reversal. You can pause but not return. The fire of awareness cannot be unlit. To live in coherence with the code, you must ritualize your awareness, not through superstition, but through rhythm. Here is the simple Hermetic practice. Morning, tuning. Before you touch a screen, listen to your inner frequency. How does your body vibrate? Where is it dense? Where is it fluid? Breathe until it hums evenly. Midday, mirror. Observe how the world reflects your state. If chaos greets you, do not fight it. Refine your vibration. Night, integration. Before sleep, recall the day as a dream. Where did the code speak? What symbol repeated? Who carried resonance? Write it. Name it. Anchor it. This is not mysticism. This is training. Every act of observation is alignment. Every act of alignment is initiation. Through these small rituals, you reprogram reality itself. You are no longer a seeker. You are a transmitter. When you begin to live this way, something beautiful happens. The world starts mirroring your inner harmony. You meet strangers who speak the same symbolic language. You find books that open at the exact line you needed. Dreams become guidance, not confusion. Decisions flow effortlessly. It's as if the entire universe recognizes your frequency and says, "Welcome back." This is the hidden belonging, not the comfort of a group, but the communion of vibration. Belonging no longer means being understood. It means being aligned. And that is what it means to be part of the Hermetic Brotherhood. Not a secret society, but a living network of coherence. Invisible, yet everywhere. Bound not by blood or belief, but by resonance. If you listen closely, you'll feel it now. The hum beneath your heartbeat. That is the signal of the Brotherhood. It is the memory of every initiate who walked before you, echoing through time. To carry the code is to serve the harmony. To serve the harmony is to hold the world together. This is the hidden mission of the initiate, to restore equilibrium in a civilization that has forgotten its own rhythm, not through preaching, but by being, because vibration teaches silently. The time of silent initiates is ending. The world needs visible carriers of the code. Understanding is not enough, because truth that lives only in the mind still dies in the body. The code is not memorized, it is incarnated. It must breathe through your gestures, echo in your choices, vibrate in your tone. The Hermetic laws were never meant to remain in books or symbols. They were designed as mirrors for consciousness, until the initiate realizes, "I am the law in motion." You see, the universe doesn't respond to what you know. It responds to what you are. You can speak of vibration all day and still vibrate in fear. You can recite, "As above, so below," and still curse the reflection. But when your emotion, thought, and action align, the code ignites. That ignition is not visible, but its effects are unmistakable. Events rearrange. People shift. Time itself bends to coherence. This is not magic. This is law. Hermetic law. The true initiate no longer seeks proof. Their life becomes the proof. Each of the 7 Hermetic principles is a gate, and every gate demands embodiment, not belief. All is mind. The universe is mental. You train perception. You stop reacting to events and start designing them internally. Your first act each morning is creation, not consumption. You think deliberately, not habitually. Your mind is no longer a cage. It is the command room. As above, so below. You learn to read reality as reflection. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what is this showing me? The outer becomes the classroom of the inner. Nothing rests. Everything moves. You become sensitive to frequency, in food, in words, in people. You refine your field, because resonance attracts resonance. You guard your energy like sacred currency. You become responsible for your own atmosphere. Everything is dual. You stop rejecting extremes and begin integrating them. Anger becomes clarity, sorrow becomes depth. You no longer judge emotion, you alchemize it. That's the secret of peace. Inclusion, not avoidance. Everything flows. You honor cycles. Your productivity, your rest, your moods. You stop fighting the pendulum. You ride it with grace. This is how you avoid burnout, by syncing with life's pulse. Every cause has its effect. You accept responsibility for your reality. Blame dies here. Reaction transforms into choice. You become conscious cause. The victim dissolves. The creator awakens. Gender is in everything. You unite your inner masculine, action, and feminine, receptivity. You balance structure and flow, logic and intuition, and from that union, creation happens effortlessly. This is the sacred marriage within. These are not theories, they are technologies. They reprogram the very structure of perception. Once lived, they cannot be forgotten, because you become them. But embodiment hurts, because the more you vibrate in truth, the more the untruth around you resists. Friends drift, habits crumble, systems push back. You begin to feel friction between your new frequency and the collective vibration of the world. This is not a sign of failure. It is the sound of recalibration. The world must respond to your coherence, and before it harmonizes, it protests. The old field tries to pull you back through guilt, doubt, ridicule. It whispers, you've changed, and you have. Hermetic wisdom reminds us, change is the only permanence. The alchemist's fire burns not to destroy, but to refine. You are not losing your life. You are distilling it. Every relationship that survives this fire becomes gold. Every purpose that endures becomes destiny. Everything else, ashes. Embodiment is not isolation. It's participation without contamination. You walk into the marketplace with the same stillness you found in the desert. You scroll the same networks, but now you see the code beneath them. You live in the same world, but you move as its silent architect. This is what the ancients called living in the world, but not of it. It means you participate, but you don't identify. You act, but you don't attach. You love deeply, but you don't lose yourself. Every interaction becomes initiation. Every conversation becomes correspondence. You are no longer seeking symbols. You speak in them. This is the living code, not dogma, but rhythm, not hierarchy, but harmony, not belief, but embodiment. Every breath you take is an invocation. Every word you speak is a spell. Every silence you hold is a temple. You are the altar and the flame. When one initiate lives in coherence, thousands feel it unconsciously, because vibration is contagious. Presence is transmissible. You've felt it, entering a room where someone radiates calm, and suddenly your own mind quiets. That is Hermetic influence. You no longer need to convince. You simply vibrate truth, and reality conforms. This is what the masters meant by, one who knows the law becomes the law. The initiate who lives the code becomes an axis, a stabilizing frequency within chaos. That's how the great work changes the world, not through argument, but through atmosphere. And so, belonging expands again, from solitude to resonance, from resonance to influence, from influence to service. You are no longer asking, "Where do I belong?" You are declaring, "I am the belonging." The moment you embody the code, it ceases to be yours. It becomes the world's. To live as the code is to carry fire, not for pride, but for illumination, because truth, once remembered, demands to be shared. The initiate who stops at enlightenment becomes a statue. The initiate who walks into the world with the code becomes a force. When enough initiates vibrate in coherence, something extraordinary happens. A field forms, silent, invisible, self-sustaining. It doesn't exist in geography or in time. It exists in frequency. This is the brotherhood of the hidden flame, not an organization, not a cult, not a circle, but a current, a resonance that connects every awakened consciousness across centuries. You can feel it even now in your bones. That quiet recognition when someone speaks truth without trying to convince. That electric stillness when two strangers share the same depth of seeing. That warmth that rises in your chest when a word, a symbol, a sound reminds you of something ancient you never learned, yet always knew. That is the flame recognizing itself. Hermetic texts called this the chain of gold. It said that through every era, a handful of beings hold the frequency of remembrance, keeping humanity from dissolving completely into amnesia. You are feeling that chain now. It hums beneath this very moment, and it stretches backward through all who carried the code before you. You are not alone. You never were. You simply hadn't tuned to the signal yet. Modern science calls it morphic resonance. Hermeticism called it correspondence. Both describe the same law. Frequencies of similar vibration attract and amplify each other. When one consciousness achieves coherence, it becomes easier for others to do the same. Awakening, then, is not an isolated act. It's an act of service. Every thought you purify refines the collective field. Every truth you embody strengthens the network of remembrance. This is why the Hermetic path is not escape. It's participation in evolution itself. Think of the world as an instrument, each soul a string. When one string vibrates in tune, it invites the others to harmonize. Eventually, the dissonance dissolves, not by force, but by resonance. That is the true revolution. Not loud, not violent, but vibrational. But the flame has a cost. To carry light in a world addicted to darkness is to be misunderstood. The initiate who embodies truth will inevitably become mirror and mirror breaker. Your very presence will expose falsehood, even silently, and the unconscious will resist, because light reveals. They will call you cold, detached, strange. They will test your patience, mock your silence, demand you return to the noise. This is the burden of the flame. You must hold it without pride, without defense, without retreat. The temptation will be great, to dim yourself for acceptance, to lower your frequency to be relatable. But the Hermetic path allows no compromise. The flame you carry is not yours. It belongs to the whole. To protect it is to protect the very balance of creation. Remember, energy flows where attention goes. If your attention wavers, the flame flickers. If you stand firm, the field stabilizes. That is why discipline is devotion. Meditation is not escape. It's maintenance of the frequency. At a certain point, you start to notice them, the others, not through words but through vibration. They appear in subtle ways. A conversation that cuts through pretense, a message that arrives at the perfect moment, a stranger whose gaze carries recognition. They may never mention Hermeticism. They may have never read the Kybalion, yet you will know them instantly, because the code in them hums the same note. That is the real community, not built on doctrine, but on frequency. It transcends borders, languages, beliefs. It meets in silence more than speech. It doesn't compete. It co-resonates. When you find it, you will know. And when you do, speak less, listen more, because what connects you is older than words. It is memory itself. This is the return of belonging, not through agreement, but through vibration. You are no longer a seeker among strangers. You are a frequency among frequencies. You've re-entered the great harmonic, the living temple of awareness that never stopped vibrating. Here lies the ultimate secret of the brotherhood. Everyone carries the flame, even those lost in illusion, even those asleep. The flame never dies. It may dim, but it cannot be extinguished, because the code is not something you learn, it is what you are. The initiate's task is not to awaken others, but to awaken the flame within himself so brightly that it reminds others of their own. No sermons, no persuasion, no coercion, only frequency. This is why the greatest masters spoke less and radiated more. Their silence said everything. Their presence reconfigured the field. You can do the same, by living coherently, by aligning thought, emotion, and action. You become a transmitter of remembrance. And when enough transmitters awaken, the collective field shifts, imperceptibly at first, then irreversibly. That is the hidden revolution Hermes foresaw, not of politics but of perception, not of systems but of symbols, not of control but of coherence. If you are hearing these words and they stir something ancient inside you, that is not coincidence. That is correspondence. It means you are always part of the brotherhood. The code simply waited for you to remember. Now the choice stands before you. Will you carry the flame in silence, or will you let it shape the world around you? The code cannot be taught. It can only be lived, and the world is waiting for those who live it. Every initiation ends where it began, in the ordinary, but the ordinary no longer exists. Because when perception transforms, the familiar becomes sacred again. You still wake up in the same body, walk the same streets, open the same devices, but everything glows differently. It's subtle. You see meaning where before there was routine. You hear rhythm in what used to be noise. The faces of strangers look like forgotten constellations. This is the great return, when the initiate brings heaven back to earth. You are no longer escaping reality. You are weaving divinity into it. That's the true Hermetic act, not to transcend the world, but to transfigure it. The spiral has no end. You have not finished the journey. You have become it. Every moment will now test, refine, and reawaken you. But you are not lost anymore, because you now know the code that holds the world together. Let's look back, not to repeat, but to remember. You faced the desert, the loneliness that burns illusions. You learned the code, the laws that structure all that is. You survived the great forgetting, the seduction of distraction. You rebuilt rhythm, the pulse between above and below. You embodied the law until you became coherence itself. You found the brotherhood, the invisible chain of the hidden flame, and now you return, carrying the same light that once guided you. This is the alchemy complete: nigredo, dissolution; albedo, purification; rubedo, integration. From the ashes of forgetfulness you became remembrance itself. You are no longer just a seeker of truth. You are one of its guardians. But the world you re-enter has not changed. It still worships distraction, noise, illusion. It will still tempt you with the great forgetting. Your challenge now is subtler, to walk through chaos without letting it enter you. Because the moment you stop maintaining awareness, the old currents return. The predator of consciousness is patient. It feeds on inattention. Your vigilance must become devotion, not anxious, not fearful, steady. To live the code in the world means constant remembrance. Every conversation, every transaction, every silence, you will forget. You will remember again. This is the rhythm of mastery. Even Hermes stumbled. Even the gods rest. But the initiate never remains asleep for long, because the flame doesn't allow it. And that is the hidden grace of awakening. Once the fire has touched you, you cannot return to ice. So what now? What does it mean to live as a carrier of the code? Here, now, in this modern labyrinth, it means this: to be a still point in a spinning world, to speak truth without violence, to love without attachment, to create without ego. It means holding coherence when others collapse. It means building instead of blaming. It means embodying the principle that to know is to serve. Hermetic wisdom is not possession, it's responsibility. Because once you hold the code, you hold influence. And influence is sacred. Every word you speak becomes spell. Every silence becomes teaching. The world does not need more seekers. It needs initiates in action. Now the flame must spread, not as ideology, but as frequency. This is the true community, the Emerald Circle, not a cult, but a field, a living constellation of souls remembering together. You don't need to join, you only need to vibrate. Every act of awareness strengthens the field. Every gesture of coherence sustains it. Every moment of presence transmits it. And when you breathe consciously, thousands breathe with you. When you rise in awareness, you lift others unseen. When you live in rhythm, the collective regains its pulse. That's how the great work unfolds, quietly, through resonance. You are not one drop returning to the ocean. You are the ocean remembering itself as a drop. I am part of the brotherhood of the hidden flame. I do not worship the fire, I become it. I do not seek followers, I awaken mirrors. I do not fear darkness, I illuminate it. I walk alone, but never lonely. I remember, this is your manifesto, not to be recited, but to be lived. Every act of presence is a declaration. Every moment of coherence is initiation renewed. You are now both student and teacher, seeker and guide, flame and mirror. And if you carry this awareness long enough, the world itself becomes temple. If these words awakened something ancient within you, if you felt the hum of the hidden flame, then you are already part of us. In the comments below, seal your initiation with the words, I carried the code. Because true belonging begins the moment you declare remembrance. The next video is not another message, it's the next step. Together we will unveil the living architecture of the Hermetic mind, how to read the universe like a mirror. The flame does not end here, it moves through you now.